Welcome to Latinos in Michigan TV. I'm your host, Liliana Ospina Herzog. In a few days, on January 1st, Juanita Bocanegra will become the first Hispanic judge in Ottawa County. Her story is wonderful and remarkable, and that's why we had the opportunity to make a video. In a few days, Juanita Bocanegra, the daughter of farmer workers who worked in the fields picking blueberries when she was a child, will be the first Latina to become a judge in Ottawa County. Her story is inspiring and shows that those who persevere achieve their goals.
I was born in Mexico. My parents brought me to the U.S. as a baby. My dad is a U.S. citizen. And when he was very young, my grandmother returned to Mexico, which was her country of origin, seeking the comfort and company and help of her family in helping to raise her young family. So my father, although he was born in Texas, he grew up in Mexico, lived there most of his adult life, married my mother, and then when I was born, my parents then made the decision to return to the U.S. So I was blessed in the sense that back in the mid-'70s, my dad tells me that he contacted an attorney who charged him a very reasonable fee to apply for residency status for my mother and I. And he said it took approximately 30 days, and he was able to drive my mom and I across the border. So we were very lucky in being able to arrive legally into the country because my dad is a U.S. citizen. I did not become a U.S. citizen until I was an adult. And the reason for that is every time we would go to visit family in Mexico, I shouldn't say every time, often, I would ask the immigration officials at the U.S., Mexico-U.S. border what I needed to do to claim my U.S. citizenship. And I was told that I needed to become an adult so that I could make that decision knowingly and decide whether I wanted to become a U.S. citizen or remain a Mexican citizen. At the time, that response made sense, and I am sorry that I didn't look into it further, because once I turned 18 and was legally an adult, I then tried to apply for U.S. citizenship, thinking that it would be easy. My dad would sign some document indicating that I was his biological daughter, and it would become official. And what I learned at the time, unfortunately, was that the information I had been given was wrong, and that could have happened when I was a minor. My dad could have signed some documents and I would have automatically become a U.S. citizen. But once I was an adult, I had to go through the application process just like anybody else. So I did do that eventually. I was very frustrated initially, very angry, but eventually I reasoned and came around and thought, this is really what I want to do. And I've lived here all my life. This is home. This is what I know. So I went through the process. Obviously, it was not a difficult exam for me because I was raised here, went to school here. So I knew how to speak, read, and write the language. I have helped some friends study for that test and prepare for that. And I know that it can be a very stressful exam and that there's a lot of information there. I also learned along the way and in the process that half of the questions that are asked or that are required, many U.S. citizens don't know the answers to. So it was a great history lesson.
Since she was a child, she always wanted to be a lawyer and never deviated from her goal until she reached it.
I wanted to be an attorney since I was in kindergarten. I guess I'm one of those unique children that always knew from the beginning and never really deviated from that. But I wanted to be an attorney for two reasons. Number one is my parents had always instilled in me that I work hard and that I get an education so that when I became an adult, I would have a job where I wouldn't be working out in the fields in the cold when it was cold, in the heat when it was the summer months, and in the rain when it was raining, all kinds of stuff. So I knew that attorneys worked in offices, and I knew that they wore suits, and so therefore they didn't have to be subject to the elements of the weather. And I also knew that attorneys helped people, and that's what I wanted to do. Now, mind you, I had no idea as a kindergartner, early elementary, that there were so many different kinds of lawyers and so many specialty areas. I had no idea really what an attorney did other than they helped people, but I didn't know how they went about it. I didn't know that some attorneys never appear in court, that some just complete legal documents, and that some specialize in litigation and are in court every day. But I never changed my mind. So when I graduated from college with an international relations degree, my dream was to become an international corporate lawyer for Coca-Cola and travel the world and work in their legal department and review their legal contracts and do that kind of work. I married my high school sweetheart my junior year in college, and so the idea of traveling the world with a young family in tow wasn't as appealing anymore. So my bachelor's degree is in international relations. I graduated from the honors program at Grand Valley, and slowly that shifted to something where I could stay in my community. Fresh out of college, I went to work for a local law firm as a legal secretary here in Holland, Michigan. My husband and I had plans to move back to Texas. My in-laws retired in South Texas. My parents were retired in South Texas. So I needed to stay close to my parents. I'm an only child. I've been paying their bills and handling their finances since early elementary, translated for them at all their medical appointments. I've been taking care of them. And I knew that as they aged, that would become a greater responsibility and I needed to be close. So my plan was to go to University of Texas Law School. As time went on and we had baby number 1 and then baby number 2, we decided that we really wanted to raise our family in West Michigan here in the Holland area. And we talked about it with my in-laws, with my parents. We talked about it with each other. Eventually, my parents said, don't move for us. You need to do what's best for your family now. And by doing that, you will make us happy and you will make us proud. So around the same time, Cooley Law School came to Grand Rapids offering their weekend and weeknight classes. And I immediately took the LSAT exam, was able to get a passing score in that and even got some scholarship money out of it. And I was part of the first weekend, weeknight classes at Thomas Cooley in Grand Rapids.
Although she never considered becoming a judge, her friends and relatives saw her huge potential to help the community, which would allow her to be an excellent judge.
I honestly did not think I would ever run for office. I don't like the politics of it. I never planned on being a judge. When I joined the prosecutor's office, I thought I would retire as an assistant prosecutor, maybe run for prosecutor one day, because I do enjoy it very much. I like that I touch a lot of lives, that I work in my community. And it was back in 2011 when I first joined the prosecutor's office that the judge whose position I took over in the prosecutor's office, he was elected judge, but he was also an assistant prosecutor here. He was the very first person who I ran into at a local restaurant. And as he was leaving and we were arriving, he stopped me and he said, when are you going to run for office? When are you going to run for a judge? And I said, never. I just joined the prosecutor's office and I'm really enjoying it. A few months later, somebody else started to ask, and that question kept coming up over the years at different social events, especially where there were attorneys gathered from different people. My answer was always the same until one day on our way home, my husband said, you've been asked this at least a dozen times by many different people, and your response is always in the negative. Why don't you at least consider it and think about it and see if that's something you would want to do one day? And that was the turning point for me when I said, I guess you're right. I've never even considered it. So over the next few years, I started talking to judges who had been assistant prosecutors before being elected to the bench, and I started thinking about it more and more. Then I joined a leadership class, Líderes, through Grand Rapids, and as part of that leadership class, we were challenged to take chances, to dream big, and to seek out those opportunities. And it was during that class that I told the other individuals there, I am going to run for judge the next opportunity that comes up. And I want to be held accountable, because I knew that if I didn't have a group of people telling me, remember you said this, that I would more than likely not follow through with it, because it just wasn't my thing. So the opportunity came sooner than I expected. And I had a couple of those people call me up and say, "You're going to do this, right? How can I help?" And so here I am.
Many things in life are not easy, but patience and persistence make an unbeatable combination for success.
This is the land of opportunity, that anything and everything is possible if you're willing to work hard. Don't expect things to be easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Roll up your sleeves, be willing to put in the long hours. I was reading constitutional law stories to my kids when they were 1.5 years and 3.5 years old because they insisted on having mom read them a bedtime story. And I had to work full-time at the law firm, work part-time at a bank, and was reading my cases to them for bedtime stories. I was staying up till 2 or 3 in the morning. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Don't get discouraged. Look at obstacles as opportunities to grow and just go for it. When I think back at everything I did, it feels a little overwhelming, honestly. But at the time, you don't think about it. You just do what needs to be done. I used to think of what do I need to do today and where do I need to be tomorrow? And everything else was on the calendar as soon as I got an assignment, as soon as I got a deadline. So I broke it up into chunks and then it became manageable. If you think of the whole thing, it's too much.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to share this video and like our page, Latinos in Michigan TV. Ciao.